Hi, thanks for being in a new video. This time I have a full review of the GoPro MAX 2. Let's get started. This is the latest 360 action camera from GoPro. It took quite a few years for this renewal, and as a result it comes with a lot of new features when compared to the first generation. Essentially everything is new. In this particular case, the initial launch price in Mexico was set at 10,899 pesos. Meanwhile, in the United States, its official launch price was $499. It's important to remember that in Mexico, taxes are already included in the price, which can sometimes make the difference seem a bit more pronounced. However, in reality, it is priced similarly to what we typically find for cameras of this style. So let's take a closer look at what it can gradually offer us. Let's begin with the design. It's evident it's a 360 camera with two lenses, but what's notable about this new generation is that we can now detach the lenses by twisting them firmly. And then we have the option to swap them out, not with the intent to change the viewpoint, but rather as a precaution in the event they become damaged. Since it's a 360-degree camera, the lenses are consistently more exposed than those of a traditional action camera. Therefore, it is crucial to ensure they are well protected, and luckily, if you happen to get into an accident, there's no need to worry about replacing the entire camera. Instead, you have the option to just purchase a replacement lens. This will be a significant evolution and a key feature of this camera. It measures approximately 49x60 for x70mm. It weighs about 195 grams. At the bottom, you'll find the GoPro folding legs, which function well for two types of mounts. We have the standard 4-20 thread found in all camera and photography accessories. It's fully compatible with the magnetic mount accessory, so in that regard it's perfectly fine. On the left side we will discover the on-off button, which also lets us switch between various modes with just a single tap. Therefore, you don't always need to use the touchscreen, since it's a camera designed with a strong emphasis on environmental settings. You plan on using gloves, whether it's for biking, playing in the snow, or any similar activity. It's quite beneficial to have the capability to change modes easily with just the press of a button. It's more than a device or a touchscreen. At the top is the shutter for starting video recording or capturing photos. Even without a special case, the camera withstands up to 5 meters deep, suitable for swimming and basic activities. For diving and advanced use, it requires a special accessory. The camera design promises high resistance, enduring extreme cold or heat, ensuring it works well. The front grille adds appeal. Overall, it resembles a GoPro but with a 360-degree approach. Let's discuss a bit more about the screen now, as the manufacturer doesn't provide many details regarding its specifications. It's actually an LCD screen designed to operate. Clearly 1.82 inches. It isn't the largest screen we've encountered on 360 cameras. Additionally, being an LCD, it doesn't provide us with intense contrast or anything of that sort. It's more of a supplementary screen. It's important to remember that on a 360 camera, you don't necessarily need to focus too much on the framing you're capturing, since you can always reframe during post-production. However, it appears that GoPro hasn't placed a significant emphasis on. I don't need a high-quality screen or anything. Clearly, through the touchscreen, we have the ability to access various settings. What I find interesting here is that you cannot reframe the preview, which is somewhat odd because essentially you can only switch between the front camera and the rear camera. However, you cannot adjust the view to shift it and see a bit more upwards or a bit more downwards. Overall, all the touch controls are. There are some employees for these gestures, but you can move the preview. That is a minor detail I would like to enhance with a future update. Perhaps by pressing once, the controls would all be hidden, allowing us to rotate in the preview. However, in this scenario, even though every control is hidden, you still cannot rotate the view. I must emphasize, it is indeed quite unusual. Let's proceed to discuss the audio features. At the top, you can clearly see 3 microphones. However, there are an additional 3 microphones, making it a total of 6. These extra microphones are somewhat concealed in the section that also functions for drainage, as well as in other areas like the front. Therefore, we will discover 6 microphones in total, designed to capture audio in a surround sound manner, which is particularly useful if you wish to record ambient audio. However, if you plan to use it more extensively for activities like blogging, we do have microphones that will capture your voice. It's advisable to use external microphones for better quality. Let's listen to a test of the built-in microphones. This is a test to evaluate the built-in microphones on the camera. I'm currently in a simple environment without any wind noise or similar disturbances, so this is the outcome. Now, as I mentioned earlier, it is indeed compatible with external microphones. This means you have the option to connect Bluetooth microphones, or you can even use AirPods. Additionally, Bluetooth headphones are also capable of functioning as microphones. However, it's important to note that GoPro currently does not offer its own dedicated microphone or anything similar. Therefore, If you heavily rely on high-quality microphones for your recordings, this is something to keep in mind. I am unsure if external microphones are available. Finally, in this section, note that it still supports voice commands, though they're not essential, since the physical buttons work well. However, if you prefer using voice to activate features, you can, but it will use more battery. So from my point of view, it is not the most suitable, but I always appreciate that several options are available for the user to have the choice. Now, let me go ahead and tell you about the specifications and features of this sensor and optics before we proceed to check the results. In this case, we will find ourselves dealing with two 1/2 3-inch CMOS sensors. These sensors are not the biggest available on the market, so their focus is likely to be more on daytime activities rather than nighttime. However, they do come with a good f1 theta aperture, which allows for sufficient light input. I must emphasize, from the initial specifications, it doesn't appear to primarily focus on aggressive nighttime performance. In this scenario, we will encounter the two fisheye lenses designed to capture a full 360 degrees. However, it's important to note you aren't obligated to always capture 360-degree video. If you occasionally prefer to utilize it as a conventional action camera, it is possible to switch to a single lens mode offering an ultra-wide field of view that extends up to 180 degrees. So, regarding the technical specifications, let's delve into the results. As you can see, the camera has the capability to record in 360, and it can go up to 8K at 30 frames per second. In this context, the manufacturer places special emphasis on true 8K, highlighting that it is lossless when adjusting the display for a narrower angle. This means we'll experience an excellent resolution. This would be one of its most attractive points. The image sharpness is really very good. If you want to go up to 60 frames per second, you should lower the resolution to 5.6K to have more fluidity. It's up to you to decide what you want to prioritize, whether it's the smoothness or the sharpness of the image. And in fact, if you want to enjoy something like slow motion, you could go up to 100 frames per second by lowering the resolution to 4K. I insist, it depends on the recording type. In single lens mode, you can record in 4K at 60 FPS for fluidity and great image quality, but only in single lens mode. I like that this camera records in 10-bit for more color depth and in log for advanced post-production. I must emphasize that this feature is primarily intended for highly skilled professionals who are adept at using video editing software to achieve very specific colorization effects. Therefore, it provides more advanced functions for those who possess the necessary expertise. It's important to mention that by default, the maximum ISO is capped at 1600, which could be a disadvantage in extremely low light scenes. This limitation is something to keep in mind when working in such conditions. I had already anticipated that it is not its priority. In fact, it is also locked at this ISO. It appears that this also somehow confirms that recording well at night is not their main priority. However, you do have the option to unlock the maximum ISO, allowing you to elevate it to higher levels. But, of course, this will result in more noise appearing. And finally, when it comes to these aspects of video recording, it's important to note that the default maximum bit rate is 120 megabits per second. However, you should be aware that through GoPro Labs, there is an experimental feature you can enable that allows for a bit rate of up to 300 megabits per second. For action-packed scenes, ensuring that you maintain clarity and sharpness at all times without losing focus. Interestingly, videos captured using the single lens format are saved in the MP4 format. However, when the videos are recorded in 360, they use an extension that, interestingly enough, is also named 360 point. Although, of course, in an ideal situation, you'd prefer to edit the videos before using them in formats that aren't in 360. To achieve this, you have access to the GoPro Quick app itself, which allows you to seamlessly edit the perspectives with ease. For instance, take a look at how I have this video here. I can instantly turn it in any direction I desire, adjust the zoom perspective, and even alter the rotation. It's extremely convenient and useful. And here, you also have the option of reframing, which will allow us to edit the entire video so you can create keyframes at specific moments and alter the perspective. For instance, we are going to create a keyframe here. Then we are going to play it, and I will pause at this moment so that right at that very moment, the perspective is already looking in the opposite direction and the device will automatically execute this movement so that it can appear as though it's a natural transition. Then once you're already in this editor, you have the ability to select from various perspectives, as you can see, allowing you to create interesting effects. For instance, here, I'm going to make an upward movement to enhance the spectacular look even more. So initially I'm going to zoom in and then we'll keep playing so you can observe how this type of editing can be accomplished directly from the cell phone or also from the computer, which I will discuss in a moment. I want you to see how at this point it's even preserving the rotation of the camera because I disabled the direction lock, but I can enable this option so that even though I rotate the camera, actually the view always stays towards the area where I'm editing. It will depend entirely on this, of the editing style that you manage, and naturally, the stabilization with horizon lock is included by default to prevent rotational movements from significantly affecting your shot. Therefore, it has everything you require. We will now create a keyframe and afterwards I will upload it so you can observe how this transition will stand out. In this part, I'm going to create another keyframe and I'll extend this even further. I'm going to move it downwards and watch as this transition looks absolutely brutal. This is part of what a 360 camera allows us to achieve. This transition has been, I have the ability to alter the aspect ratio of my video. In this particular situation, I'm working on it as vertical content. However, it's entirely possible for me to edit it in different formats, such as a 3:4 ratio, a 7:8 ratio, or even make it a fully square format. Additionally, I can certainly opt to use a landscape view if needed. Here, you have the ability to fully edit your videos according to your preferences. You can crop them, apply various color filters, and even alter the speed to create a slow motion effect if desired. Additionally, it provides options to adjust the sound and modify several other elements such as exposure, contrast, intensity, temperature, shadows, and highlights. After completing your edits, you'll be able to export your video, allowing you to use it in different settings beyond just 360. But hey, if you're not interested in editing by keyframes, well, you have the alternative of using object tracking. So for instance, I'm going to choose the option for it to detect my face. Let's pick this option here, and I will download an AI model from the internet for me to apply. Now, I'll just follow the instructions as the application guides me here so I can achieve the tracking, and there you go. And now the camera will automatically detect my position at all times and will rotate accordingly so that I won't need to manually adjust the rotation, especially if I want to consistently maintain the focus on a specific and particular object. However, another approach to editing our videos is by using motion frame. By observing, pressing this button will enable us to rotate the device to the desired perspective, and it will also rotate the preview. Then I can say start recording, and in this manner I will rotate the cell phone. Because I need the camera rotation saved, it's another way to edit camera movements with dynamics already saved. In fact, right here I have the option to choose more or less precisely how I desire the low fluid, medium fluid, or high fluid, as well as the original movement that I'm executing with my hand. All these different options are readily available to me. Additionally, there's the pub mode and also the camera FX feature, which allows us to incorporate some movements such as turning to the left. Make a right turn here and you'll find several predefined movements available. These include even a panning turn. Notice how there are already these default effects in place, which means you don't have to manually create them yourself. Instead, you already have all these options ready for you to edit. One of GoPro's strengths is its editor, which is great for motion effects and lens perspectives like linear or wide, to correct natural distortions. Due to the extremely wide lenses it incorporates, yet overall this is quite impressive. The camera itself additionally includes various capture modes within the sequence option. For instance, we can access the sequential video, vehicle lights, and light paintings. These modes are particularly aimed at night scenes where light sources pass by and move in front, creating a more visually appealing perspective. We also have here, as I say, the 360 video, with presets available, and finally the 360 photographs, so you choose what to use. Speaking of photography, it offers spherical photos of 29 megapixels or single lens format at 12 megapixels. It supports JPEG or RAW, though it's not mainly for photos. But if you want a 360 picture of a place, you can do it. For example, in photo mode, you see options like a 3 or 10 second timer or off. There's also a button for taking pictures at intervals. You choose the time, from 2 to 120 seconds, you pick your preference. Here, you can customize photo parameters. You also have the option to adjust the manual settings such as shutter speed, exposure compensation, and white balance. Additionally, you can set the minimum and maximum ISO, adjust the sharpness, and select the color profile. This could be the natural or vivid setting, or even a flat color, allowing you to choose the rendering style you prefer the most. Also, choose single lens exposure on or off, and select 360 or linear setting. We also find here the quick settings configuration, because you're going to see that we find here several corners, but if we press and hold on them, we can change the setting style by default. For example, here's the button to switch to the rear lens or front lens. But you can choose. Therefore, the interface is designed to be very customized in this regard. allowing you with just one touch to easily access your favorite function. This feature is certainly going to make the video experience more comfortable and enjoyable. You also have these options to access manual settings, particularly to activate 10-bit recording. As you can see here, you can modify the image resolution and its frame rate along with some other aspects. However, the most important feature is the color depth, which can reach up to 10-bit. As I mentioned, it comes with a maximum ISO limit, which you can increase up to 6400 if desired. Interestingly, it is preset at 1600. In this section, you can adjust sharpness, color, and white balance. Essentially, you have all the tools necessary to ensure high-quality video recording. Additionally, you can activate the single lens mode if you prefer to record using just one lens. The stabilization is not going to have any kind of adjustment because it's the default hyper smooth stabilization. I remind you that when you're editing the video is when you can turn the stabilization on or off, but I've been testing. You're just running here and it really looks like it works pretty well. The broader and more distant the object or scene you're capturing, the stabilization will be even more advanced. So honestly, there are no complaints in that regard. Let's discuss the battery, which is 1960. The battery is removable, which means you have the option to purchase multiple batteries simultaneously, ensuring they are always charged. This is particularly useful for extended recording sessions, as you can easily swap them out without any hassle. According to the manufacturer, the estimated battery life is about 1 hour when recording in 4K at 30 frames per second. I conducted a test myself, but it was a basic test with the camera remaining stationary. It consumed around 11% in 10 minutes, so I could record for about 90 minutes in 8K. More movement increases the workload, so it might last an hour. As for charging power, in this case, 15 minutes gave me 24% battery, 30 minutes reached 44%, and 1 hour reached 84%. The charge slowed down to protect the battery and its durability, finishing at 100% in 1 hour and 22 minutes. I don't find it outstanding here either, since it doesn't offer fast charging for at least the first half hour. I would have preferred seeing more than 50% in that time. We will not say that it is an exaggeratedly slow load, but it would be better to charge your external batteries separately. Let's now discuss the final details, because in this particular case, the camera lacks internal storage, which means you cannot record without buying a micro SD. Therefore, it's crucial to acquire high-speed and high-capacity cards to ensure you have ample space for your recordings. Additionally, this camera integrates dual-band Wi-Fi, enabling you to swiftly transfer your content to your cell phone with ease. However, it's not only about the cell phone. GoPro emphasizes one of the key features of its camera, which is the capability to back up all the content to the cloud automatically when you charge it. This, of course, necessitates a specific subscription, yet it becomes incredibly advantageous for those desiring enhanced convenience. They won't need to manually transfer their content. Instead, the moment you start charging it, everything will be seamlessly backed up to the GoPro cloud. Additionally, it will feature an integrated GPS, allowing you to obtain precise coordinates for all the content you are capturing. As I mentioned earlier, there are applications available for installation on both Windows and Mac. These apps enable you to not only play back the content in 360 degrees, but also offer plugins for Premiere Pro and DaVinci Resolve. This means you can edit the videos directly, perform reframing, and much more while you are working on them. In this way, we find things more outstanding than we could in various other alternatives. This will certainly be a crucial aspect if you wish to record content or edit it on the computer with far more detail and using more advanced materials. This option certainly raises the bar significantly. For now, we've come to the conclusion of this video. I sincerely hope you enjoyed it, and if so, you can let us know. We'll see you next time.